Good evening, football fans, and welcome to Getting Defensive. I am your host, Jeff DiMatteo, the founder of Gridiron Ratings, and I don't want to say the brains behind the projections, but you can definitely blame me for them if they're not right. And the creator of all things on Gridiron Ratings. I am joined this evening by IDP Guys' very own Mase Riney. Mase, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me on, Jeff. I'm stoked to be here and to talk about tackle share and everything that is the world of getting defensive.
Absolutely. Well, I figured this would be a great way for us to kind of, kick off this new kind of schematics meets analytics era for the Getting Defensive show. So it's going to be a little different vibe, I think, than folks have been used to. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And we're probably going to fumble over some stuff. So bear with us. If you see some stuff that's wrong, don't be afraid to poke fun. We'll do our best to take it in stride. So let's just hit it right away. So tonight we're talking about tackle opportunity, right? So, do you ever look at tackle opportunity as something that is a way for you to drive production on your fantasy teams? Like, do you ever even think about the term when you're putting together your rosters?
The way that you had said it, no. I'll look for tackles or I'll look for high upside guys, I guess is what I would call them before. Actually, we had talked, but I like tackle share. Just the fact of thinking that different teams or different players have more upside, and it's not always just like the best player gets the most tackles. If there's a player like, I don't know, maybe like the Lions who doesn't invest heavily in the linebacker position, you're going to have someone like Alex Anzalone. Is that how you say his name? I'm horrible with names. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're going to have someone like that just picking up tackles, or someone like Tracy Walker, safety, just, in the Lions case. So, tackle share is definitely something that I feel like myself included, as well as other IDPers that I'm not going to speak to, it's definitely something that you're going to have to look at.
Awesome. Well, for those that are uninitiated, let's kind of go through just a brief overview of what tackle opportunity or tackle share really means and what it encompasses. So really, in my view, right, so when I project this and I start trying to work through the entire model of how we assign tackles to players, it's the projected sum of awarded tackles, solo and assisted, for any given team. Okay. So I think of this kind of like pass attempts on an offense, right? This number gives us a sense of the size of the pie for total tackles, right? The number 4 tackler on a higher volume defense is likely to have a lot more tackles and more fantasy points than maybe the 3 guy on a lower volume defense. Kind of makes sense, right? Tyler Boyd might be more functional than the number 3 guy in Baltimore. So I try to equate it to the folks that play offense. There's your offense defense, equalization. We'll put it that way. This matters most, I think, on deeper rostered IDP leagues where you need, bye week filler. You have to draft some depth, and none of the players feel like a slam dunk, right? And I mean, you hit that point in your draft and you're kind of like, ugh, who do I really want? This D lineman, this linebacker, whoever. You take the guy you can err on the side of, well, hey, this team looks like they're going to have a whole crap load more tackles. Let me get that guy because I think that's going to be at least a higher upside, right?
Yeah.
Here's how it gets projected. And Mace, I'm sorry, it's going to be just a minute while I kind of let everyone know what this is. I apologize. I know. It's just, brain vomit here. I apologize. Yeah. So we project these totals at Gridiron Ratings by collecting a ton of different data points, projected win-loss record, right? So how does game script play into it, right? Expected run-pass splits. So when you're looking at, certain game scripts, you're going to have different splits for runs and passes against that defense. If you're getting passes and they're incomplete passes, there's no tackle opportunity there. That matters. Home stat crew bias. Some home stat crews, Buffalo, Minnesota, some of these teams, they just award more assisted tackles, and that means more fantasy points. Play caller tendencies over the last 3 years. We go through, we break down every play caller, offense and defense, to assess tendencies to every position group so that we can figure out how to funnel these tackles, which then comes into scheme adjusted tackle funnel. Some places, anywhere Gus Bradley is, the strong safety is a strong IDP asset. That guy gets points no matter what, no matter who it is. We go ahead and we assess that funnel based on those play caller tendencies. And then finally, we match it to the player tendencies and their physical skill sets. So it's a lot of data points kind of being thrown in the blender, and out comes this list of assessed or expected tackles. Do you think that's a thorough enough explanation, Mase? Do we think we covered it?
No, it's pretty good because I was trying to, at the same time, compared to like how I do my projections myself. And one of the main things that I made sure that I wanted to hit on was the schematics and what each defense is doing and how long that coordinator has been there, because then you can rely on maybe not exactly what numbers are going to have, but their go-to guys, their scenario guys, if they use their nickel backs, how they use them, some different things like that. So as I've grown in this space myself, I'm starting to kind of do, I guess, what you're doing, making a smoothie out of everything, put it in a blender. So no, it's a really good way to do it. I like the way you're doing it.
Well, and what you're saying is you said something that is 100% spot on, and I think it really needs to be kind of reemphasized. How long has that coordinator been there? How long have those position coaches been in place? Because that really matters too, right? It's really hard to assess a new play caller in a place when it's a totally new set of players, and this guy's maybe been in 3 or 4 places in 4 years. So now you have to say, okay, well, what are his tendencies without the players involved? And that's how you can start to identify, okay, well, scheme, he likes to do X, Y, and Z. Here's how some of the tackles get refunneled. And that's why we have to lean on player tendencies and some of those tackle funnels we talked about just a moment ago. But I'm glad we shot through that pretty quick. So I want to leave plenty of time to talk about the teams and some of the players involved, right? Because we know who the studs are on pretty much every team, right? You see all the top 10 linebackers, top 10 DLs, top 10 everything, top 12, whatever. We win drafts late. Right? Everyone knows who the studs are. Let's go get those mid and late round guys that have a lot of opportunity for upside. And here's 10 teams we're going to focus on. And now, Mase, I know I've shared the list with you off air, but here it is for our listeners. Number 1, the Seattle Seahawks. Number 2, the New York Football Giants. Number 3, the New York Jets. A lot of tackles in New York right now. Number 4, the Houston Texans. Number 5, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 6, the Atlanta Falcons. Number 7, the Detroit Lions. Number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 9, Los Angeles Rams. And number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. We've got a list. We got some teams. Now let's figure out who are some players, or I should say, before we can get into the players, do you have any takeaways or surprises from that list? Do you look at this list and say, well, I can't believe that team's up there?
Yeah, so the first 4 Seattle Giants, Jets, and the Texans, that's kind of self-explanatory. You kind of get that. You see that with the way that they draft. I mean, I guess maybe not Seattle, but just everything that they did in this offseason. I mean, I'm an Niners fan, so yes, thank you, Seattle. Keep on going. Yeah. But no, realistically speaking, the Steelers kind of take me a little bit. I'm just thinking maybe it's because their offense doesn't really advance the ball that much with Big Ben and over the field. Yada, yada. They'll turn the page on that maybe. So also the Rams, but I know the Rams are a very high scoring team. Also the NFC West is I don't want to do the whole Niner thing again, but that's a pretty rowdy division. So that kind of makes sense as well. I'm just looking and seeing a lot of these teams don't really have a solidified front 7. That's a takeaway I had as well. So maybe you get some DB work out of those first 10 teams. But aside from that, a lot of these teams, I guess, are lacking a true star, aside from obviously that Pittsburgh defense and from them up pretty much. But I know that's all I
got. Don't worry, you're not being graded on your answer. You're
right? Okay. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, we've got this list, and I know you have it in front of you. Let's assume for a moment that these 10 teams spend, we'll say, nearly half of their snaps in sub, right? So, and when we say sub, we're referring to nickel, even though some teams run nickel more frequently than their quote base defense. In sub, we know we have 2 linebackers on the field, and we know those are our most common guys. One of those will be the green dot guy, and that's going to be kind of our every snap player, right? So let's assume they're playing half these snaps in sub. Who are some players that you might want to target that are not the household names, right? Not the big-time studs that could provide some depth for your fantasy roster, or maybe a little bit low-cost upside where it's a guy you can plug in and maybe they become a starter for you?
Okay. We'll start with that low-cost upside. One that just jumps off at me right now is Zadarius Smith for Minnesota. I know he dealt with injury last year. He has been a freak before, man, and there's nothing but opportunity there. And that defense, I believe it's Q Williams, the linebacker / safety for the Jets. I'm not sure in what capacity. Quincy, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm not sure what capacity they're going to be using him in as well. Nickelback for the Jets as well. M. Carter. He was averaging 7.7 points per game according to Fantasy Pros, I believe, last year. That's pretty good. Sauce Gardner probably will take a lot of the targets because he's such a big name, and I know some quarterbacks are probably going to want to test him and stuff, so maybe he takes some of those targets. But Robert Saleh's defense is a very nasty one, and they get after it. So he's not afraid to use different schematics. Tay Crowder as well. I'm not sure if he kind of fell off. A lot of people with Blake Martinez coming back really shifted their focus to him, but I do believe that Tay Crowder is going to be on the field as well. Yeah, that's kind of all I got right now as far as that goes. With the dual backers, Cody Barton for Seattle. He's not really a household name, but one that some of those IDP thumpers from all around the year, some of those guys have been saying his name for a while now. Leonard Floyd and Ernest Jones, both those linebackers on the Rams. I'm not really sure which one's going to be doing what, but I know that Floyd last year, he was a pretty prolific tackler, so he'll be all right. Philly was the last team on the list, and their linebacker core really not really sure if they're going to finish the same way that they start. I do like TJ Edwards, even though he was undrafted. He is kind of the proven guy there, the middle linebacker. Kaiser White was signed on that one-year deal, so we're not really sure what's going on. Nakobe Dean was, a third-round pick with injury history that I didn't really know about. So
no one did.
Okay, I saw it, and I was like, dude, like, am I like this bad? Like, I wasn't really sure, you know? So, yeah, that linebacker core is going to be like boggle all year, but yeah, that's kind of what I got.
Well, you've got some really great names on that list. So the one that you started was Zadarius Smith, and I'd like to kind of circle all the way back to that guy. And let's go a little deeper with Z Smith. So, we know we're going to have Danielle Hunter on one side, Zadarius on the other. Minnesota's going to be in a position where they're going to be chasing down Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't have any receivers, right? And it looks like Bakhtiari's hurt again. Like, we don't know what's going on with that O-line. That's a mess. Detroit's got a pretty strong O-line, and Goff's good about getting it out fast. He's not a sexy name at quarterback, but he gets it out quickly, right?
He'll manage it, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got Justin Fields, who left us wanting a little bit last season, but, there's some upside, right? If you're looking at those division games, and we're looking at Z Smith, do you think this is a guy you need to leverage in more of a sack premium league, or do you feel like in a balanced format you can plug him in as a linebacker 2, 3? Like, what's your sense in terms of how we deploy him on our roster?
Yeah, I would definitely try to use him as a lineman. Sack heavy league, yes. If you have to play him on a high upside sack league as your LB3/flex, I'm not like amazingly happy with that, but I guess you could do it to get through a bye week. I'm sure there might be, depending on like the length of the league or how many managers you guys have, maybe someone else that could be a better choice out there, like LB, like an actually true LB2 that's going to be on the field playing that role. But I just, like those upside, like you're saying, those rival games, those big games, he's going to be one of those guys that steps up, especially if Hunter is actually on the field for the whole year this year. Then they're not going to be taking it to Hunter. They're going to be going on the other side, seeing how it's going on. So I really like that upside, and I think that he is going to have a silently stunning year.
Okay. So if you were going to plant your flag and you're going to say, this is what Z Smith is going to be this year, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't talk about this at all. I'm sorry. If you were going to tell me he's going to get to insert number of tackles here and insert number of sacks here, what are some numbers you feel like would be a comfortable expectation for him for 2022?
First off, just staying on the field and being consistent, I think is going to be the biggest challenge for him. Not anything, but for him to get like 10, 12 sacks, I feel like that'd be pretty nice. I don't have his tackle numbers in front of me for his career, but I feel like anything over 30, if you're going to be putting it in where you're drafting at, we'll say 25 with like 10 or 15 combined. That's kind of what I'm feeling. I feel like that's, I don't know, just off the top of the head there, I feel like that would be okay, especially for someone that you're taking that late in the draft in that spot. If you're looking to draft him as a linebacker, I would suggest against that 100%.
And that's kind of where my thought is, right?
Yeah.
So I look at Z Smith and I see a guy who he's a lock. As long as he's on the field, he's double-digit sacks, right? He can get you somewhere from 10 to 14 pretty easily. I'm willing to plant my flag and say double-digit sacks if he plays, 16 games. He can get you from 10 to 14. The inability for teams, especially the ones in his division, to be able to shade their blocking schemes in a way where they can put that additional tight end or back or chip or do whatever they need to do to slow Z Smith down is going to be really detrimental to that quarterback's health, because Danielle Hunter's screaming off the other stuff.
Right.
And so if it's me, I'm going to take my chances and I'm going to go even up front. And I'm going to try and do my best to keep, a tight end on one side, maybe chip with a back on the other, and force those quarterbacks to check down. I'm going to force them into those little quick passes. and then let my safety group, which Harrison Smith is a little older, but you know what? He's still a savvy vet. Lewis Seen is a guy I loved coming out of Georgia. And I think it was a Cameron Bynum is the other safety they have there that he looks like a really nice free safety prospect. That's a guy that I think has a future. And, suddenly that group can collapse quickly onto the line of scrimmage and take those plays away if they check down or go inside to a tight end. So teams are going to have to even up on him. 10 to 14 sacks. Because of some of the ways Minnesota's stat crew kind of likes to count some things, and because of the way the scheme's set up, and I think there's some positive blocking scheme here for Z Smith, I'm willing to go to about 40, 45 tackles here combined. And, assisted and solo, trying to put the whole number out there. And, that number should put us in that linebacker 3 category, right? So if you're running a deeper roster and you've got to start 3 backers, I think I'm okay putting him in there. It really depends on who else I've added and who else is adding sacks to my fantasy team, right? I'm going to be careful over drafting him, though. I think if somebody's going to take him, in a spot where it's a linebacker 2 where it gets fringy, I'm probably going to pass and let somebody else take him. I want him to be the 33rd to 36th linebacker off the board.
That seems right.
And I feel good about that, and I can plug him in as a starter at that point, and I feel good. Now, if you're in a shallow league, you're only playing 3 IDPs or 6 IDP starters, you're probably not drafting this guy unless you're on sleeper and he has DL eligibility, in which case then the sacks really matter, his tackles really matter, and he measures up well against some of the premium guys in the league. Then you plug him in as a DL2, and sleeper helps you with the dual designation. So I think Z Smith's a nice one. I like that. I like that pick. I like that play. I'm trying to remember all the ones you said, so you'll have to stop me if I screw up. I do that. I'm getting old, and my brain's slipping a little bit. New York Giants. You brought up Tay Crowder.
Yes.
Tay Crowder had a lot of productivity last season with Blake Martinez being out. This defense looks a lot different now with Wink Martindale, right? We haven't really seen a ton of productivity from his linebackers, not edge rushers, but his 2 premium kind of tackling backers in a while, right? Take me through how Tay Crowder is going to coexist with Blake Martinez.
I just think that with the new defense, they might be sending Martinez a little bit more through the gaps. And if that does occur and he happens to miss it, or if it's not on his side, then Crowder's that guy that can go and pick up the slot. We saw him do it all year last year. I'm not saying that he's going to go to the moon or anything, but if it comes down and you're in a deep roster and I got to either roster Zadarius Smith on a week, maybe if he's on a dry spell or something, I'm definitely going to try to take Crowder and just try to get what I can out of him.
Perfect. Well, and I look at that and I'm thinking to myself, I see Tay Crowder, I see Blake Martinez, and I look at this defense. Kayvon Thibodeau's no joke.
He's a bad man.
Right. If he shows up and plays to his potential, you've got a player that's going to look a lot like Micah Parsons did last season. Maybe not as many tackles, but he can get a ton of sacks. The guy can get after it. I was a little hesitant on him in the draft process simply due to some of the on film. I still feel like there was some plays where he kind of gave up a little bit. There was games he got shut out of that I was really shocked. It wasn't like he was getting double and triple teamed. He was one-on-one and just not winning. Concerned me. Everything out of camp seems glowing. I'm probably going to eat my words on him as a prospect, and he's probably going to be a stud. And so,
well, he was a spicy draft pick in IDP leagues as well. In rookie leagues, people were kind of, I don't know. You either loved him or you hated his tape, and depending on which side you're on, he's going 1.2, 1.3 behind Hutchinson, or he's going like 1.7, 1.8, kind of falling. So I didn't really get to him at a point to where he was late, so I don't really have a lot invested in him. But I do believe that he has the talent, and the dude's when he's on, man. So he's a really good pickup.
So what if we see the Giants running some more twists and stunts, and we start seeing a little bit more of those games up front where we start seeing like Leonard Williams kind of pivoting to the outside and letting Kayvon get inside, and we start seeing those games getting run? Do we think that's going to be a spot where Tay Crowder is going to be able to kind of clean up any mess that makes it past that scrimmage? That's kind of where he's going to live?
That's what I'm thinking. They're going to utilize him just to kind of sit back and see what happens, and if anyone's, they miss it and he can go through. But I think that's going to be the way that this defense runs in that front seven. It's going to be through, not like, I don't know, trying to like be Houdini, like, hey, here and then here. They're going to be running tricks, doing stuff, trying to get in just to get these guys active and moving. I know there's been a lot of talk about them, and especially with Blake Martinez, the leader, coming back. I'm excited to see what they can do because they could just be reckless and go out there and really mess some things up, especially in that division.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So, I mean, I look at this group and I see Tay Crowder, and that's a guy that I think I have some affinity for late. I know a lot of folks are kind of in on, McKinney, but it seems like he's going to play free safety. Dane Belton looks like he'll be in the box. So it looks like when you're getting into tight end brackets and playing the middle of the field, it's going to be Crowder and Dane Belton. If it's me and I'm saying, okay, which one of those two guys is going to get the bulk of the tackles? I want the guy who's been in an NFL weight room and been on the NFL fields for the last year or two. Give me Tay Crowder. And I'm happy to take him. What are we thinking in terms of, potential stat line? You think this is going to be a guy that can get you to 75 tackles combined?
I'm not really sure. I think they might, kind of like with the Niners and Al-Shaair, where he's just playing multiple roles and doing whatever they tell him to. Like, I feel like that's what he's going to be. So I wouldn't put him on as a consistent, remedy for your squad, because then you're going to be heartbroken and you're not going to like him at all. I would just slot him in.
Now I'm going to get way off the reservation here. So try not to just dump the call on me here. What if you've got Martinez on your roster already and you're late in this draft? Let's just say you've got all your starters, you're picking bench players. We're talking you're deep into the 20s in terms of rounds of your draft. Would you take Tay Crowder as a handcuff, assuming Blake Martinez can't stay on the field?
Well, I mean, you just mentioned Belton, and I don't really think anyone is probably going to roster him at all. So if he does go down, then he fills the second. I don't know if you have Martinez, I don't really believe in handcuffs, I guess. Some people cool. Like it. I don't even really do it on offense just because I don't want to have to think about that. Like when I draft a guy, I don't draft him with the horrible thought that he's going to, be injured the whole year. Like when I draft Danielle Hunter, I'm drafting him as the DL 8 to 10 with hope that he gets to the upside of a 3 or 2. But if he finishes within the 20 range, I'm cool with that. So
have you drafted Danielle Hunter this year?
In 1 or 2 places, yes. I do like him, but it is scary.
If something happens, I'm here to give you a virtual hug over the internet. Just in case. We'll get you taken care of. We'll get a support group going.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, hopefully everybody stays healthy, right? We don't want to try and predict injuries on the show. It's not what we're doing. Sure. But if you're sitting here and you're staring down, like I said, you're at the end of your draft, there's worse players to take than Tay Crowder, right? I would rather take Tay Crowder than, say, the 3rd or 4th linebacker in Green Bay.
Yeah.
That's as we start getting into this, we start kind of breaking it down again. Let's lean on tackle opportunity for those late round decisions to start trying to figure out, okay, hey, you know what? This guy he's not sexy. He's not lighting the world on fire, but you know what? That team is going to get me a bunch. Maybe he gets some. It's just a way to play the odds, play the numbers.
Yeah. Well, New England, sorry, really quick. The New England Patriots, their linebacker too is Raquan McMillan. And he hasn't really done anything amazing since 2018. So if he's the LB2, I would rather have someone like Crowder opposed to him. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, 100%. But people will recognize McMillan as a name, and they'll probably draft him over Crowder. Yeah, and that's one of those moments where I like to use my favorite phrase in fantasy football. When other managers are making mistakes, I try not to interrupt them.
Only when you're drafting, no, for sure. That is hard, man, because you're sitting there and you're like, oh, that's how I used to be, though. I used to think that I was making money moves, man, and I was not.
It's easy to get lost in the minutia, and sometimes you just got to get down to the brass tacks of what teams are producing fantasy points. Okay, give me the guys on those teams. I don't need to get cute, and I'm not trying to find this, super deep sleeper. I'm not worried about that. What I want to do is I want to put fantasy points in your lineup to win a championship. That's what we're here for. Yes, let's get paid.
Yep.
You had a couple of guys. You mentioned the Jets. You talked about Quincy Williams. The Jets are interesting because they've got Quan Alexander. You've got C.J. Mosley there. And they drafted a couple of really interesting guys last year with Nasra Hamsreldine. I apologize if I butchered that. Jamie Sherwood was a converted safety that looked really good as a potential weak side backer. And now it seems like you bring in the veteran Quan. You got these other guys. You still have Williams there, and he was productive when he had a chance to play last year. What in the wide world of sports is going on with the New York Jets?
So Robert Saleh came from San Francisco, and even D'Amico Ryans is still using that kind of tweener. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Trying to point that way.
That tweener linebacker safety position. And you butchered his name. I'd butcher his name too. Nasruddin, or I can't even.
Yeah. Hamza Nasruddin. I think it's Nasruddin.
Thank you. He was from Florida State, and I liked him as a safety. He was just a little bit slow, I feel like. So then they saw it in there. And I feel like they just have a bunch of project players who, in my opinion, are on their last leg. Quan's going to come in. He's part of the hot boys with the Niners as well. Maybe he can try to get some cohesiveness and figure out who the leaders are in that locker room. Really, I don't really think Quan is going to be amazing for fantasy. I think if someone goes down, then, oh, yeah, for sure, he can still step up for, 10 games and throw the tackles down and do what he's got to do for your rosters, like LB3, maybe back in LB2. But until that, until the stuff hits the fan, I'm not really – I don't know. Like, I like Mosley a lot because I kind of figure he's a lock to be a top 15, if not a top 10. I just don't want to be cute about it. So anyone else kind of past maybe halfway to Williams, like you're kind of rolling the dice there as far as linebackers go.
Sure. And I mean, I'm looking at this linebacker group, and it seems like Mosley's kind of the guy, right? Yeah. But I mean, this is a player that, for as much as I liked him in his Baltimore days, they let him walk. Yeah. They let him go in free agency to the Jets, and then he hasn't been great in New York. Like, he's had some good games. He's been hurt. He's had just some bad luck, right? Like, it's not his fault. Quincy Williams played well. We know that. Do we maybe just punt this linebacker group and maybe go and lean on like a Jordan Whitehead, thinking maybe, hey, this is a guy that can get up in the box and just be that Jamal Adams, maybe like Marcus May was, and I think it was 2019 or 2020 when Marcus May had that huge year.
Marcus the Monster May, dude.
Yeah. I mean, but everything on this roster makes me feel like, hey, that front four, if they're healthy, looks pretty vicious. Jermaine Johnson is no joke. You've got Quinnen Williams. He's a full-grown man. And then you get Lawson back. And, you've got a few other guys that are good rotational rushers, even from the inside. It feels possible to me that there's a lot of points in the secondary that are being unrealized.
No, there is for sure. And like I was talking about earlier with Sauce Gardner, they have him as well. And I'm really interested in Whitehead. I know that previously Robert Saleh's defense hasn't really produced amazing numbers from the strong safety position. So I'm not sure if the linebackers or the front seven, like you were talking about, are actually going to pick up those stats. So I wouldn't overpay for Whitehead, but if he falls in leagues, definitely look at him. Yeah, I don't know. They're kind of a wash, man. So unless you can really get the gold at the top, I mean, you're punting it. You're punting it.
So we're not flying with the Jets, is what you're saying.
Not this year, man. Maybe I'll get a first class ticket on the fan wagon next year.
There you go. I'll tell you what. One more thing on the Jets, and then we'll bounce on to the next squad here.
All right.
If you're thinking about Whitehead, how many other safety/defensive backs do you want off the board before you take him? Do you think you want like 14, 18, 25? Like, what do you think?
I was going to say probably 15, 22. I'm thinking somewhere in that range, depending on how many beers I've had. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, probably 15 to 22. Just looking at, I don't think there's a tremendous amount of upside there just because of the track record, like I was saying with Coach Saleh. So I'd rather be pleasantly surprised by taking him 20th and having him finish like 16th. You know what I mean? Like, I would completely be okay with that, opposed to drafting him at like 10, and then he finishes on 17 on you. It's going to feel a little funky.
Gotcha. So get a few beers in you. Let's get weird. Draft Jordan Whitehead late. Got it.
Liquid courage always helps.
It certainly does. I'll tell you what, we're going to go another 15, maybe 17 minutes or so here, so we'll try and shoot through a few more. The Houston Texans seem pretty interesting this year, right? This is a team that's got a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of debate about this linebacker group. A lot of folks are kind of on that Christian Harris bandwagon. Some folks still kind of sticking to Kirksey. You got Jalen Peachtree. Looks like he's going to be the strong safety. And I love that for him because I really liked his prospect profile. But if you had to pick a guy on this defense, like, there's no studs, right? There's not a Jordan Brooks or a Bobby Wagner or a Fred Warner on this defense. Yeah. So who's the guy that we need to lean on in Houston if we had to take just one?
Probably Kirksey for me. And if not Kirksey, it's going to be Harris, just because I feel warm and fuzzy about the linebackers, I guess, and it's the easy answer. You were saying Petrie, the rookie out of Baylor. I really liked him because he has the athletic profile to play free safety, and he's also a dog, dude. So he'll play strong. Like, I feel like they're going to be able to – the Texans are in a place where they're still rebuilding, figure out what they got going on the offensive side of the ball. So not only is he going to get opportunity, he's going to be used in a variety of different ways, because I feel like he has the ability to stay on this team for a long time and hopefully eventually be paid, like, called home for his career. I like him a lot.
Gotcha. Well, so now here's a little something. So PFF currently lists Neville Hewitt as the weak side linebacker when they're in base. Allegedly, he'll be off the field and sub. With how fluid this linebacker group is, would you trust them to continually take their starting weak side backer off the field? Or do you think a guy like Kirksey or Camus Grugier, he'll rotates in terms of that sub package? Are we going to see maybe a real big division of snaps there?
I think with I don't know. I was even thinking this when they extended the schedule. There's going to be a lot more rotations. Even you see it on the offensive side of the ball, starting with the running backs. Guys are just rotating in and out. I feel like that's how you need to do it on your line, because you see, like with the Niners, man, one or two guys goes down every year, and it's horrible for us. And that's, I mean, with a lot of guys too, even the Saints, I know we're battling with injuries and other stuff last year as well, and they had a pretty good front base. So I don't know. Sorry, I kind of got off track. What was your question?
It's okay. I was letting you get the thought out. I was letting you work through it.
Yeah, sorry, man.
So, I mean, injuries do happen, right? Houston's a team that projects to have a lot of awarded tackles. It looks like you won't have a guy that's going to stand out, but we might have a bunch of guys that are solid that are probably going to get badly underdrafted. I mean, I've been in a few IDP drafts, and I think these guys are going outside of the top 48, top 50.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm happy to take one of these guys and just take a flyer as a linebacker 5.
Oh, yeah. What I would say to do is just look at the positional matchup against the offense they're playing that week and kind of look and see how that team matches up, and then go ahead and pick and pull, because whoever gets the targets and, the runs is going to be the one to get the points. I don't really think they're going to be putting any one player in any spot aside from the rookies. They also have Stingley on the outside as well, so they're definitely going to want to see what he has in store. But a lot of these guys, it's just like it was last year. It's just a prove-it year. So they're going to be putting them wherever they are, and they're just going to be doing stuff. So, it's going to be a wash, I feel like, aside from Kirksey.
Gotcha. I was going to say, Lovey's always had a guy. He always has one guy in that linebacking core, whether he was in Chicago, he's a coordinator in Tampa. Everywhere he's been, he's always had a guy. Yeah. I don't see that guy except for maybe Jalen Peachtree. Maybe it's Kirksey. He needs that one guy, and I think those might be the two best investments. I'm with you on Kirksey. The Neville Hewitt thing was more of just kind of like a curveball because I don't know.
He kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, not out of nowhere, but he was on the Jets beforehand, and then he went over there, right, to the Texans, I feel like. So, So
it seems like a lot of guys that couldn't seem to find other homes or stick anywhere are all just congregating in Houston.
Well, you think Patrick Queen might go there next year? Either there or the Jets?
All right. So short thing on Patrick Queen. Everyone hates this guy. It's amazing to me. But he's played 2 years, and he's put up 200 tackles. It's pretty reliable.
Oh, yeah.
He's just not getting anything else, right? And I blame the scheme for part of that, and I blame Wink Martindale's inability to create that tackle funnel. He wants the strong safety, Chuck Clark. He wants your edge rusher, Adafe Owe. He wants those other guys making plays, and that's how he funnels a lot of those, those stats and those tackles. I really wonder if a new scheme in Baltimore and a new coordinator is going to open up the world for a guy like Patrick Queen. And I love Kyle Hamilton, but he needs to be in the box, and I think those two guys could be in for a little bit more production than folks are really ready for. But I'm not ready to punt Patrick Queen yet. We're talking about a guy who came out young, was a converted running back to linebacker. And so I'm not ready to hang him out to dry just yet. But that's Baltimore. They're not on our list.
No, they're not. Sorry, I just random thought. I was just thinking because you said you were talking about the Jets and I know.
It's okay. I'm just messing with you. We already talked about the Vikings a little bit because we led off with Za'Darius, so I'm going to skip over them. We've got a couple of interesting teams here. Let's hit two teams at a time here.
Okay.
We've got the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions. These are two teams with rebuilding defenses, right? In Atlanta, you got to love Dean Pease. The guy is absolutely brilliant. He can conjure pressure out of the sky, right? He can figure out ways to get after the quarterback, even if you and I are rushing. Mm-hmm. There's no one to love really in the linebacker group. And then you go to Detroit, and you mentioned it earlier, they just don't have any assets there. You mentioned Alex Anzalone, you had Derek Barnes, maybe could be a thing. They drafted Malcolm Rodriguez, and he's pretty interesting. Converted strong safety. Yeah, this is the guy I loved on the Oklahoma State film. We actually had that in our rookie draft guide. He gets downfield in a hurry. He's not ideal in coverage. He's a better fit as a linebacker. Love him on the weak side. If he can go run and hit, he's going to be an absolute monster. But if you were looking at those two squads, knowing, hey, we're going to get some tackles, who are a couple of guys you might target from the Falcons and or the Lions to try and fill out the back half of your roster?
Oh man, Detroit. I really don't want to touch their linebackers, but if you're gonna make me,
I don't blame you.
Yeah, no, if you're gonna make me, it's gonna be Angelo, just because I feel like he's that guy. If you're really gonna take someone for tackles in that defense, it's gonna probably be their safeties. I'll just highlight Walker. Sure. He just got paid. They really said that. Defensive coordinator, who was slipping my mind, said that Walker's the vocal point of that defense, and he's really going to take a step up this year, I feel like, and he had an awesome year last year. I lost my place there. Rashaan Evans. Yeah, I mean, I guess as of right now, because I'm not really sure what's going on with Deion Jones. He's on the pup right now, right?
Yeah, he went on the pup. He's nicked up right now. Rashaan Evans is the guy that comes over and worked with Dean Pease in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Maybe no team's going to help him.
Yeah, no, it might, and that'll enable him to stay on the field consistently and let the coach run through him. So, I don't really like any of those teams for tackles, but like you said, they will be there late. An interesting one, not really tackle, but just more like pass rush and whatnot on the line is, I'm going to butcher his name, Arnold Ekabi. Dude, I can't see it. Arnold Ekabi. I'm sorry, dude.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, because I love it, because these are the hardest things to do, and I have to practice them all during the draft process.
Yeah.
Arnold Ebiketie.
Ebiketie. Thank you very much.
There you go.
He's gotten high praise as well, and I know they don't really have a lot of assets on the line, especially for fantasy, so they're really looking to turn the page there, I feel like, and go for it.
He has got – so I don't know how much of his film you watched from last season in terms of, a little bit. So I try, when I'm evaluating players for draft season, I do my best to try and get about 300 snaps on any given player. That's kind of my benchmark. I'm like, I need to get to 300 to form a good opinion. Ebiketie's a guy who showed really nice bend, great first step quickness. These are all traits that translate really well to the NFL. To me, he looked like a guy that should be an 8 to 12 sack guy every year. I want to see him put a little more weight on his frame. I think an NFL weight room might help a little bit. He needs to be able to control an offensive lineman a little bit more with a bull rush. This is a guy where he's going to struggle in the run game a little bit at first. I think he might need 2 or 3 years of getting that kind of, we'll call it the grown man strength, right? He needs a little bit more of that grown man strength, I think, to be able to be a legit run defender. But this is a guy where we can expect to see him in all 3 downs, especially, if they get into a position in the NFC South where those teams like to air it out. I mean, you look at all of what New Orleans has done, everything says they want to throw the ball a lot. Tampa Bay, hey, Tom Brady, he wants to throw it all over the field too. Carolina, they're going to throw it to McCaffrey, so that doesn't really count. But
what they're going to do.
Yeah, Baker throwing to DJ Moore, hopefully.
We'll see.
But yeah, I look at Ebiketie as a guy I love in Dynasty. I'm not sure I'm investing in redraft. I look at these two teams, and you mentioned Rashaan Evans. I think he's kind of the redraft guy that I like. Yeah. Somebody that we didn't mention was Troy Anderson. This is more of a kind of a deeper dynasty play.
Yes, for sure, man. Converted quarterback. That guy is amazingly smart, just ridiculously athletic, and he made himself a lot of money on the combine.
100%. And he's already looking like a guy that can call the defense. And so as we get into 2023, 2024, Deion Jones is probably gone. Rashaan Evans' contract will be expired. Troy Anderson could be walking into that starting role as this team continues to rebuild, because they're going to be looking and spending draft capital at quarterback. They need to reload on offense. They need D linemen. I really don't expect them to spend a premium pick on a linebacker for another few years, unless somebody just falls in their lap, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a dynasty league and you haven't drafted yet for your rookie draft, go get Troy Anderson or see if you can go trade for him.
Yeah.
Because there's just not a lot of noise out there for him right now. But the way the roster lines up and the way guys should be coming off that roster, that's going to matter. And that guy's going to find himself into playing time. You can go in your taxi squad right away. Really nice player. But yeah, somebody, though, has to get some tackles for these two teams. What about Eric Harris for Atlanta? Strong safety. How do you feel about that cat?
I was kind of looking, and I'm just not sure because I don't know how many box snaps he's going to get. I don't really know what they're going to do. I don't know what that front seven is going to even look like right now. I mean, hopefully Deion Jones does get there because his contract and the money they're giving him says that he should be there. You know what I mean? I think if not just for this year, but for also the year after, I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to try to find a trade partner. But I think next year they have it out after a certain date or something. It's just a mess, and there's too much mystery in it for me, man.
Sure. No, and I'm with you. Eric Harris seems like that guy. He's kind of a body to fill in. He's had a couple of decent games in his career, but this isn't a guy that I want to lean on necessarily. If I'm going to go buy tackles in Atlanta, I want Rashaan Evans this year. I want Troy Anderson beyond this year. Ebikete's a guy I really like as an edge rusher. Detroit, I love Malcolm Rodriguez in Dynasty. I think I'm with you on Anzalone. I think I'm with you on Tracy Walker. The Lions are a little different than every other team out there because instead of running a true strong safety, free safety configuration, they do left and right safety. So both those safeties can get in the box. So you can take either Lions safety because I think they have Deshaun Elliott as the other safety now.
Yes.
And so Elliott can spend some snaps in the box, and so can Walker, and it could change depending on the opposing team's personnel. So both of those guys could be worth that late round flyer. So really nice players there. Hit me.
Yeah, quite. Sorry, I know we already talked about him, but since you brought up the left safety, right safety, you think Minnesota does that with Scene and Smith just to kind of get?
I think they should. I don't know if they will. Okay. That's going to be. Here's the way I view it, and this is just through my eye watching the Vikings the last couple of years. Harrison Smith is not the player he was in 2018.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is a guy that really I want to get him out of the box, and I want to let him get over the top. Let him read the entire defense because with his awareness and his ability to inspect the entire field, he can use his FBI, football intelligence, to go ahead and get to the right place. Right? Yeah. He doesn't need to be lightning fast to get there. He just needs to say, "Hey, look, I can read what that quarterback's doing," and he can start making his breaks early. I'd rather see Scene on the other side, get him in the box. I want to see him paired up on tight ends. I want to see him get to a position where he's making plays in the backfield. Yes. Because something we didn't get to see at UGA because of Nakobe Dean and because of some of these other guys on that defense is that Lewis Scene is a damn good football player. But he was overshadowed by the fact that by the time we get to 2024, we're talking about all 11 of those guys are going to be NFL players.
They had five this year.
They had five this year, yeah. Nuts. And then Nakobe Dean was a third, and he was the best player on the defense. Mind-blowing. And we're going to get to him in a minute. I promise we're going to talk about Nakobe Dean. But yeah, I think that would be great. I don't know if they'll do it. I want to see what this team brings with O'Connell at the helm. But I think that's a great question. So I'll tell you what, we're going to skip over Pittsburgh. We know what they are, right? TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, you got Miles Jack, you got Devin Bush. Those two guys don't know where they're supposed to be on the field, but they know they can get there quickly. Yeah. And so, God willing, they'll do something. Right. Otherwise, I'm just going to pass. Yeah. The Rams, outside of Bobby Wagner, it's just Ernest Jones, right?
Yeah.
It's probably the guy we want. Taylor Rapp?
I was going to say Taylor Rapp and Fuller. I don't know.
Okay.
Probably Rapp, though. Most definitely over the other, and then the strongest man in the world, Aaron Donald.
Strongest man in the universe?
Do not sell my man short. All right, dude, I hope he doesn't bust through my door right now.
He can hear this conversation right now. Okay,
right.
I'm pretty sure he's actually a superhero.
He might be, dude.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're running a little low on time. I try to keep the shows around 45 minutes, but I do want to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is one of the most interesting teams in fantasy football this year, and they deserve a bit more attention than I think a lot of folks are giving them. That D-line looks really interesting. You're rotating guys like Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, who I comped pre-draft to the Incredible Hulk. There's no other way to explain his size and speed, combination. You've also got Javon Hargrave there. You've got Hassan Reddick, who looks like a legit 10 to 12 sack guy with all that help up front. You've got Josh Sweat, who's coming back. He's healthy. They've got some speed on the edges and big, strong, fast dudes in the middle. That's dangerous up front. Are you investing in any of those guys for redraft?
Oh, man. As much as I would like to think that the rookie is just going to come in and take over in Jordan Davis, I think I'm going to give it a year. Let him develop a little bit. I think a lot of these guys are going to go through rotation aside from TJ Edwards and then Kaiser White. Kaiser White is one of those guys that I thought was a good player, and then apparently a lot of teams thought that he was a scheme player based on his contract because they want him to prove it. So I expect him to come – I know, blew my mind. I expect him to come out gunslinging. He's going to be landing it all on the line. It's they also got Hassan Reddick, like you were saying. He's going to be coming off the edge. There's just – I don't know. All right, so you're saying like main guys that are going to be in there, TJ Edwards, Hassan Reddick, and Hargrave, I feel like. Those are the main locks there. If you want to get on a rotation with Cox and Fletcher, Graham, I think it's just going to depend on the week or what the schematics are for the offense.
Fair enough. So I see all these bodies, and I'm looking at this. This is going to be an even front, right? Four-man front, fully expecting to see some combination of those 3D tackles, right? If you're playing in a league that requires an IDL or a D tackle,
oh, yeah.
Hargrave, Davis, Fletcher Cox, they're probably all worth a draft pick. Jordan Davis, I really want to get him a year in an NFL weight room, and I want to see him in the scheme because the way he was used at UGA, I think is going to be a little different. They're going to use him in Philadelphia, and not by a lot. I think he'll be expected to one gap most of the time and just create inside pressure. That's going to be his primary role. And the idea is to just eat up 2 or 3 blocks, and he can do it.
Yeah.
And it's going to free up these other guys because you can't double team Jordan Davis with his size, strength, speed, and double team Fletcher Cox and double team Hassan Reddick. You don't have enough bodies for that. Now, with those guys up front, it's going to create some really interesting run fits. I look at the talent on this group, and I think Edwards is going to be a guy that plays most of the snaps. He's probably wearing the green dot this year. I haven't looked into it, but I assume he is. When I look at Kaiser White, I look at the 1-year contract. And then I look at Nakobe Dean, a projected first-round draft pick, who only slid due to a shoulder injury. If Dean's healthy, I think he dethrones Kaiser White and ends up being the starter. And if he's the starter, few players offer better sight to getting run fits and making sure they're filling the proper gaps, chasing plays out to the sideline, and being able to take pass plays away before the sticks than Nakobe Dean. The UGA defense in 2021 was the best defense in the history of college football, period. There is no debate.
They drafted the 2 heads from it, too. So as Davis comes up, and if Dean is able to slip in there, he's already been reading that player. You know what I mean? They're boys. They know each other, man. They know what's up. So, spicy combo stack for sure, especially in a DT league.
100%. I spent countless hours breaking down Nakobe Dean, and the only guy I could find size, speed, athletic profile, the way he plays, I went back to 1994 and I pulled up Derek Brooks' Florida State film. And it was Derek Brooks. That's the only guy that I could find. And I've been watching, and I'm old enough, and I got the gray hairs to prove it.
So you got the wisdom going.
Yeah, my wife just calls it being old. But I went back and I had them on both screens. I put up Florida State on one side with some grainy Derek Brooks video, and I put up UGA's video on the other side. And I was just trying to watch for run fits, watching coverage, watching the way these guys move from sideline to sideline. They looked like the same player. I don't know that Nakobe Dean's a Hall of Famer. I love him. I think he has that kind of potential and upside. However, this shoulder should be a worry. If you're in redraft, you need to go ahead. People are going to let him slide, right? Because people don't think he's going to start.
No,
don't leave your draft without him. Oh, where did you see him go? I'm sorry.
LB20.
What?
Dude, in a lot of drafts, it wasn't just like, I thought at first it was just after the draft, right? Like people are taking cornerbacks early. It's Wild West out there.
Oh, sure.
I mean, so I think more as people talk, as redraft comes around, people will get out of that dynasty mindset. But I've literally seen people taking him in dynasty formats as the LB20, and that's a little spicy for me.
In a dynasty format, I can get behind that. I can get behind 20 to 30 in a dynasty format. Okay. In a redraft format, this guy probably shouldn't be drafted in the first 45 linebackers, 50 linebackers. And if he is, let somebody else take him, because for 2022, he's still splitting reps with TJ Edwards, Kaiser White. There's going to be some rotation there. He's not going to get you enough snaps to provide that fantasy impact. We're looking at 2023. If you're a dynasty player, I tried to grab him in the second round of a rookie draft, and I got sniped. I was furious. I was getting ready to take him. I think I was ready at like 16. It was like 15 or 16. So, I mean, we're talking pretty good draft capital there in a 12-man league. Got sniped. I still came away with Hamilton and Hutch, but I felt like maybe I should have taken Dean and rolled the dice on Hamilton. What are you going to do? But really interesting team. Keep an eye on it. If you're in a league and you're going deep, it's redraft, whatever, Dean's slipping in its last round of the draft, take him.
Why not? Yeah.
That could be the kind of guy that creates league-winning upside at the end of your draft, right? Maybe he's the starter in weeks 11 through 17.
He could be.
Right. And next thing you know, that guy's getting you 18 points a week and you spent nothing on him. Now, there's an equal opportunity that he gets you 6 points every week and he's worthless. That's why you take him in the last round, right? But one of those high upside plays, that's what we're all about, right? Tackle opportunity. Philadelphia's going to have awarded tackles. Let's go get some of those players. I'm not scared of Edwards. I'm not scared of Dean. I'm not scared of anybody in that front seven. I think that's going to be a really good football team. All the numbers, all the metrics, all the players, the coaching, their schedule, everything lines up for a special season in Philadelphia. Let's leverage that. With that, I'm going to scroll up on my notes a little bit. I'm just giving everyone, I'm breaking the fourth wall here. I want to let everyone kind of see the insanity behind the curtain here. Is there anybody we didn't cover that you feel like, hey, we need to hit this guy before we get out of here?
Rayshon Jenkins, the safety for Jacksonville.
Okay.
I just think that he's got good upside. They move him around a lot, put him in the box. Devin Lloyd's still a rookie, so he might not be fully there. So I think Jenkins has a little bit of opportunity to kind of coach him up and help him and see the field and hit the places that he doesn't. Cameron Curl as well. I wanted to get your thoughts on a player like him because I feel like he's back on strong safety now. And I don't really know what to do with Washington because they just fired their defensive lineman coach. Yeah, so it's just kind of a wash. So I know that it wasn't in our notes, but just kind of something to think about because I know that he was kind of a tackle stud, like 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. When Landon Collins got hurt 2 years ago and he stepped in and he was an absolute monster, that defense has changed quite a bit now. Yeah. I think what we should do is you and I should get back together and we do tackle opportunity for the next 10 teams because I think Washington falls in that group. And let's cover Cameron Curl at a little bit of depth. We'll put a pin in that one. But I like where your head's at because I think he's a very interesting football player. And that whole defense can be very interesting too. Mm-hmm. So a lot going on there. But I'll tell you, before we get out of here, Mase, why don't you tell our listeners, where they can find you, what you're working on. Give us brag on yourself a little bit. This is your time.
Yeah. Mase Riney. I'm from Northern California. I write for IDP Guys. Do mainly IDP, but I don't really hold myself to that. I like to do scouting. Hope to go to the Shrine Bowl, do things like that this year. Hopefully, if the wife and family permit it. But aside from that, I like doing football stuff, and I want to thank you for having me on, man. It's been fantastic, and I hope we can get back together soon.
Dude, the pleasure is mine. I'm looking forward to it. We should definitely, after the show, let's talk a little bit. I definitely want to get you on for the next tackle opportunity episode where we cover the next 10 teams, and we can start to really narrow this field a little bit and help some folks win championships.
Yeah, definitely down for that.
Cool. Well, with that, everybody, I think that's a wrap. I'm Jeff DiMatteo, the host, founder of Gridiron Ratings. Mase already let you know who he is, where he is. Go check him out. Follow him on Twitter at KellyKing49er17. He's obviously a very intelligent individual, and you should follow him because he's a 49ers fan. That's a sign of good taste.
Right.
I'm a fan. I'm into it. With that, you guys have a great night. Good luck in 2022. We'll see you next week.